Well, good morning, everybody, and happy Monday. We are doing our GMP Live feature today, and we're just going to chat a little bit about operations. And in context of operations, we're going to dive into material controls. So, Section 49 of the Natural Health Products Regulations basically goes over manufacturing, packaging, labeling, and storing of your products and your raw materials and what that should look like. And that's where material control comes into play. So, in order to set up proper evidence and proper record keeping for material control, we're going to need to ensure that we draw out within our good manufacturing practices what the transportation and receipt of raw materials looks like, what we do in terms of identification of these materials within our own businesses, how we examine and handle and sample the ingredients that we're receiving in for raw supplies, and then how we test to see if that is exactly what we're looking for, and if it passes that test of ours and it meets our criteria, what our process is for approval or rejection or quarantine of these materials. So when we receive an order in, the first thing that we're going to do is ensure that the order is all there. So we're going to go through the inventory lading list and ensure that all the products are there, that all the containers are in good shape, bags aren't ripped, everything looks, smells, and feels correctly. And then from that point, what we need to do is, as business owners, we need to assign an inventory key to it so that it's a unique identifier. And every company has their different setup for it. So it could be letters and numbers, it could be just numbers or just letters, but we assign a code to a raw material and we record that we've received this raw material in. Additionally, we're going to need to assign it a lot and batch number so that if ever there is a recall on a raw material, we're able to immediately track where that raw material was used. And we do that through the distinctive lot and batch number. And that's actually called traceability. And it is one of the processes that we work into our standard operating procedures, is a process for being able to trace all of our raw materials right back to where they came from. And then it's like a shared burden. So if there's a problem with a product, your first step is always going to be to examine your raw materials. And was one of the raw materials the cause of that product failure? And if so, that's when you move on to contacting the supplier and getting their guys involved to have a look and see if it was indeed batch specific to the batch that you received, or if it's straight across the board a problem. But again, the traceability is super, super important. So we're going to inspect any packaging containers. So if it comes in a Ziploc bag that's sealed, if it comes in a tin, if it comes in a plastic container with a lid with the little tear seal on it, we're going to take that tear seal off. First, we're going to make sure the tear seal is there. Then we're going to take it off and actually inspect the product inside. And we're going to use our senses. We're going to make sure it smells right, it feels right, it looks right, all these things. And so we'll have a checklist as we go through, and we're going to verify each inventory item. Additionally, let me just look at some of my notes here. So assess each raw material against the specifications. So it has to obviously meet the specifications as drawn out by your supplier. And then we need to identify on a label on each of them that unique identifier, but we should also be identifying by species and by botanical or inky names so that it's a really simple process in the future, because all of these things are building towards growing your company. So in the future, you want somebody to be able to walk into your supply storage area and immediately pick up ingredient ABC123 with botanical or inky name, whatever the name might be. So it's also setting up processes for the future for training people to work with us and for us in the future. We're also going to identify the quality status. So it's going to be received and approved, received and rejected, or received and quarantined while we determine if a product is what we wanted or not. We also need to work into our good manufacturing practices what the process is for reviewing those items that were in quarantine or any of the raw materials that we have in the rejected pile. Why did we reject it? We have to record the why, and then we also need to record the why of a quarantine and determine what factors made it such, and then we have to establish a criteria for a further inspection of the quarantined items. So let's say that it's looked a little off or it smelt a little off, and you're going to put it in quarantine, and then maybe in 7 days you're going to go back and you're going to check that quarantine item, and if it's gotten worse, we're going to reject it and send it back. If it's stayed the same or gotten better, we're going to accept it into live inventory. So all of these processes are written out within your good manufacturing practices. So there is a process in place for every single piece, right from interviewing your suppliers to determine that they are indeed the right contact for you and provide the right quality of material for you. So there'll be an interview with them and a checklist that you sign off on that, yes, we're accepting this supplier for these specific materials. So that's the first step. Second step is going to be what your inventory process is. So when you're running low on shea butter, what is your process for ordering? And you have to identify what supplier it's ordered from and the quantity in which you're going to order it. And so there's a process that you build into the good manufacturing practices. And then likewise with your ordering, your receiving of raw materials. So all of these things, like I've said before in previous videos, I know we're doing these things already because we're ordering from suppliers and we've approved them as a good supplier for us and a right fit for us and for our company. So we're already taking those steps. So at this point, what we need to be doing is developing the recording process of writing it all down. This is how we do it step by step. The ordering, same thing, and then of course the receiving of the order when we assign the lot batch number, when we assign a unique identifier to a product. In my raw ingredients spreadsheet, I have VO as one of my codes. So VO001 is almond oil, sweet almond oil. Because it's vegetable oil. SS is specialty seed. So it's a specialty seed oil. So that would be like my raspberry oil. So we're assigning a unique code that is very specific to our company. We're recording all of that. Then when we're ready to reorder because our inventory is getting low, then we're going to know exactly what supplier we're ordering from because we will have recorded it. Likewise, this will be where you are tracking inventory. So I ordered 120 milliliters of raspberry oil, and then I used it for this product, which will be recorded on your main manufacturing form. And then you will have to decrease your quantity amount by that amount within your record keeping for your raw materials. And that's how we develop an inventory system for raw materials. So maybe I used 20 milliliters. So now I have 100 milliliters left. I can assess that generally I use 20 milliliters per batch of whatever product, so that should last me X amount of days. Then we have to define within our processes what is the minimum amount of a raw ingredient before it's pushed for reorder. So maybe when I get down to 40 milliliters in that 120 milliliter bottle and it's dropped down to 40 milliliters because I've used 80 of it already, maybe when I hit that 40, that's my magic number, and that's when it's pushed through to reorder status. So these are the things we need to define in terms of raw materials. So it's the suppliers and the raw materials themselves and the record keeping and the acceptance or rejection of each raw material as they come in. Additionally, we need to define within our good manufacturing practices how we're going to store those raw materials, where we're going to store those raw materials, and then a time limit that we're going to store them. So what is the expiry on these ingredients? When we've reached a certain time that we've said this is our cutoff date, that we won't use it past this product because it might be starting to turn. So we can have a re-entry program where we go in and we review all of those raw materials that expired on September 1st, 2020. And then we can have a look at them and we can test them and do stability testing to see if they're still safe to use. And if they're still safe to use, we would then push them back into live inventory after we had this assessment process. So every process, every bit of record keeping, these are things that all filter into your good manufacturing practices. We provide these to Health Canada as part of our site licensing, so they are assured that we are doing things by the book and we are on top of the safety, quality, and efficacy of not just the products that we're putting out to retail, but also of the products that we're getting in, that we're managing those raw materials safely, that we are ensuring they are in, the best quality shape to be put into our products, so that we are elongating the expiry on our own products, and we are ensuring the quality of our own products. It's all the building blocks within that create the good manufacturing practices. So that is all for today. And we will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. for our GMP Live. And we'll talk a little bit more about material control. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to do the video through Zoom so that I can share my screen and show you some of this required record keeping for materials, incoming materials, and the inspection criteria, and what the batch and lot sheets look like, and things like that. So tomorrow we'll do a Zoom instead of just a Facebook Live, and go over it a little bit more in depth in the record keeping area. So I hope you all have a great day. It is Monday. I hope you all have a great week, and we will catch you all tomorrow. Bye for now.